Welcome, everybody. If you don't have a seat yet, please come in. It's nice and warm here compared to maybe some other parts of this stage. I would like to welcome you all to our session. So my name is Estelle. I am part of the leadership of digital transformation at Teleperformance. Teleperformance is the CX global leader and trusted by many of the world's leading brands to orchestrate intelligent transformation using a human and AI model. And I am joined today by the very lovely Sarah Latsch. She is the Senior Vice President and also Global Vertical Lead for our automotive vertical. Welcome. So we are going to be talking today about how client-driven partnerships solve for real business problems and can actually help accelerate transformation and create scalable innovations that are able to transform industries. So the microphone is on, I guess?
I think so.
Yes, it is on. Great. So let's deep dive into the automotive industry, because there has been a lot of transformation already happening there. Where we used to have cars really be these horse-powered status symbols, we are now looking at highly tech devices driving. There's a lot of electrification happening. We're talking about new mobility models. Can you tell us a little bit about what's top of mind of the automotive leaders that you're interacting with?
Of course I can. So you're absolutely right. So the industry is undergoing disruptive change and a lot of things are happening there. So we have the electrification, we have autonomous driving, we have the software-defined vehicle. So a car is a computer on wheels, so it's undergoing massive change. But there is one element that is even more important to me, and that is that the humans and the customers are even changing faster. So when I think about a customer being always connected, wanting to have seamless experiences throughout a day, so not even being in the car, we know that seamless journeys are wanted in entertainment, in travel, in banking, wherever you are on the planet, you want to have seamless and connected journeys, and you always want to have something that is already anticipating your need. This is where we are at. And I think this is also where mobility needs to keep pace and also change towards that seamless, connected, and already anticipated journey.
I think you're spot on, and that's not just something that the automotive industry is facing. We're really seeing rising expectations from consumers who are used to certain experience also in other industries, right? So what you're used to with regards to a effortless journey, maybe within your subscription for your entertainment product, you will also expect the same experience when it comes to your automotive experience, your automotive drive. So with these rising expectations in mind from customers, how do brands actually supercharge their experiences, and how does AI play a role in that?
Yeah, first of all, we need to understand where we can bring AI, and so how can we shape that customer need from seamless into really anticipated intelligently solutions. And so how can we move from seamless to really anticipated? And so let's share an example. So I drove on a charging spot a few days ago. It was like dark and cold and rainy, and so I had 4 chargers, 3 different screens, and 3 apps. I tried the first one, didn't work.
3 apps, wow.
I tried the second one, didn't work. And so I'm really from the industry and I know what I do, but it took me a while to get that charging session started. And so my first idea and my first thought was, why the heck is there no one experience that works? But right after, I had in my mind, why is the system not thinking ahead, already anticipating that there might be a problem? And this is what the industry needs to think about. So the first example, I don't want to have one experience that works. That is the seamless. But on the other hand, how can we anticipate what already is going to happen so that I do not run into that problem? That is already intelligence, and that is the anticipating, and this is where the industry needs to move towards to. So, and that is where AI comes into play.
And how do you see automotive brands currently kind of tapping into becoming more predictive in their experience and anticipating needs before they arise?
So there's a lot of things on AI, and AI can be super, super powerful. But first of all, we need to get the foundation right. And if the foundation is right, then we have good chances to use AI, because AI can bring a lot of clarity and complexity, can give you step-by-step guidance in very complex sceneries. It can be there in the moment of truth to give you the right data at the right spot in time, also to give you the information where it's really needed. But we need to create the foundation. We need to give a sense to the data first. And what I mean is we really need to crack silos. So automotive industries are designed more in verticals, but we need a horizontal journey. So we need to remove the friction. We need to make sure that data is not contradictory. And moving back to my charging example where I was there at night, you remember, let's go back there. And so the process looked quite clean at the very beginning. But deep diving into the different silos and into the different disciplines involved there, finance, payment, experts on the chargers. So we thought that there's a lot of data lacks. There's contradictory data, and the people were not aware that they are working on the same process. And this is where AI cannot help. So I say human make the meaning, and AI scales the data.
That is a really, really good statement, and I want to kind of zoom in on that a little bit. So humans create the meaning while AI scales. But we all know that in order for AI to be able to make decisions autonomously, you also need solid data. Within automotive, I think there's not necessarily a lack of data, right? Because there's a lot of things being registered within your driving experience already and with you as a customer. So how do we really unlock value with that data?
So first of all, you're right. So there's a lot of data, but this topic brings us to the biggest illusion that we have in the industry, because it is important to understand that massive data is not necessarily creating value. So first of all, we need to get the meaning out of it. We need to understand where to look for. What do I want to discover, and what should be the driver for action? So without that, the data is not useful and we cannot adopt AI. And to bring it to a completely different domain, because we're talking tech here, but let's use a very simple example and let's go to a kitchen. So there you have a lot of ingredients. So the kitchen is packed for cooking. So that is our data. And then we can use AI to make storage of the ingredients. We can make sure that we have enough in stock, and we can also predict what is needed. And we also can maybe suggest a menu. But is that really successful? I think it needs a cook, the human, that really understands what the customer wants to have as a menu, and then it can be variable. So I would say that by the end, it's data can read, AI can read the data, but on the other hand, the humans need to read the customer.
I think it's really time for us maybe to deep dive into the case study that we have prepared today, because I think maybe a lot of you in the audience are at different stages of adopting AI within your organization or going through transformation yourself. But the reality is that we know that a lot of the projects that start with AI don't really move past the pilot stage. But with Volkswagen, we were able to deploy a human and tech model. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Of course. So let's talk about Ellie. That is the charging arm of Volkswagen Group. And they are there to support the public charging infrastructure with hyperchargers. So they do it mostly across Europe, and they help electrification for dozens of drivers. And so they came up to us with a challenge because they needed to scale in different geographies. So they had technicians, just a very few, very knowledgeable, but for scaling in geographies, they needed more. And they decided to go in a local approach, but that brought them to the problem that they lack of skill arised, because the local technician had all the, let's say, basic information, but not the in-depth knowledge. We, as a long-term partner of Volkswagen Ellie already, had our own centers where we had the experts supporting the field service, but we were kind of blind because we weren't the ones in the field. And so we decided to approach that topic together with Volkswagen and to bridge that gap on how we can overcome the hurdle that on the one hand, they had technicians, not that knowledgeable, and on the other hand, we have the knowledge, we were blind. And to bridge this gap, we approached the problem together.
And the solution that we created was?
Yeah, so we came up with deep diving into the problem first. So let's explain that. And then we approached our own technicians, asking them, because why not asking the experts first? And we asked them, how can we help the field service support better? So what would you need in order to be a better supporter? And there were two things that still stick with me today. So they said, on the one hand, we need to move closer to the problem. And on the other hand, we need to see what they see. And only at that point, coming to your question, we brought in technology. So first of all, it was just understanding the challenges, and then we decided to go for technology. And we decided to go for augmented reality and using smart glasses to bridge the gap, to follow the I see what you see model. And that was where TP Reach was born.
Okay. I think we also have a video to show actually how the solution works. So I'm going to press next. I'm going to look at the video team behind me. If we can play the video.
Ellie, the EV charging arm of Volkswagen Group, a subsidiary of Volkswagen, were entering a lot more international markets, onboarding a lot of additional companies with new firmware, new hardware, and constant updates. The products grew more complex, fast. Our challenge was to support field technicians smarter, so they work faster, fix more, achieve more. Technicians are hard to find and costly to train, so scaling is challenging. When we discussed smart glasses, where a TP expert in a command center sees what the technician sees in real time and supports them like being there. That's how TP Reach was born.
It's not all about technology. Technology is great, but without the human interaction and redesigning processes end to end, it is not a helper. It's a TP credo that we should never underestimate the power of being there. And the technology that we use and the new processes that we designed for TP Reach brought us closer to the problem, which means we can go further to fix it.
One of the biggest advantages of TP Reach is that the field technician can work hands-free all the time, using voice command.
After the problem is fixed, TP Reach saves all of the documents and pictures used during the call, so there's no manual documentation to complete. This saves the field technician up to an hour on each support session, and the call can also be saved as a video. I see what you see approach, so they can really work close together as one team. TP Reach cuts handling time by 30% and boosts first-time fixes by 30%. More important, it feels like true teamwork between field and remote experts.
With a high customer satisfaction, because in the end it's all about quality of the product and the service.
So this is super interesting, and maybe to kind of find here, because you also introduced already that the solution really came into being by going really to the source of the problem and the people that are currently handling the process. Can you maybe tell us a little bit, like after the problem was defined, how then actually this solution actually came into being?
Of course. So when we had the idea of the I see what you see model, we directly jump in our first tryouts together with Volkswagen Ellie as a partner. Because I think it's worth mentioning here that all started with a trustful, long-lasting relationship. And we've seen that on the main stage today, so that trust is the driver for kicking off tech innovation where people feel potentially a little bit anxious in the very first moment. And so we really counted on the long-lasting relationship. And they gave us a lot of speed to do tryouts very first. So we had our first MVP already done after 3 months of time. So from the idea to the MVP, so we kicked it off already. So we did a lot of tryouts with the technicians in the field across different geographies. And there was like one situation that I still have in mind. I think it was with a Spanish technician. He was not familiar to using augmented reality and smart glasses at all, but when he did his first tryout, he ended by saying, "Oh, it really felt like I was sitting next to the expert." And that was a great example and gave us confidence that this can be a success.
And I think that's actually where a lot of projects maybe have difficulties with, is also the adoption of the solution itself. That didn't seem to really be a problem in this use case. I think in the video we also saw some really great results with 30% reduced handling time. I mean, I'm a bit of not an expert here, but how long does typically such a session take?
So a session can take up to 3 to 4 hours, so driving down the handling time by 30% is quite significant. And also because we can schedule sessions that are like more frequent sessions per day, so we can also work interdisciplinary, involving different disciplines from cooling to heating to engineers in that session to solve the problem. Also our productivity went up by 30%. So, and this was also a helper that we had these early results in the pilot to really make our way through from pilot to a solution that we now have within our TP core as a solution.
Okay, so we are at the Adopt AI event today, and although very impressive, augmented reality is not necessarily AI. So how does AI come into play in this solution?
Estelle, I anticipated that question, and it's absolutely true that augmented reality itself isn't AI. But why do we talk about augmented reality and AI? Because AI is not a layer that we put on top of our TP Reach solution. So it's embedded seamlessly into the process. And it comes into play where the expert has the biggest pain. And I give you an example. So the technicians do really have a lot of pain when they need to document a session, because due to security and liability purposes, every session needs to be documented very well. And it takes a technician up to an hour per session to do that. Bringing AI into play, using the data that comes from the augmented, so the transcript and the visuals, we can use to put into AI to let AI do the job and to do a documentation without the involvement of the expert, unless he is ticking the box and saying the documentation is fine. This is where AI comes into play.
Okay, and looking also into where the solution kind of was building a bridge between skill gaps that were existing in the field versus the expertise that we have within our centers. How is AI also helping in that regard?
Yeah, so that's a good example that you're mentioning there, because we have a language gap to bridge. So if you remember, I told you earlier on that we needed to cope with technicians that are based locally, but maybe not that confident to talk about technical problems in the English language. So, and therefore, AI voice-to-voice translation comes into play, where the expert in the center can talk to the expert in the field without boundaries, because the AI is doing the translation in real time, helping those two to communicate properly.
That also already starts to make me think about maybe future developments within this solution itself, right? Because if the focus is on kind of bridging the skill gap, I think the solution can even be further developed into also creating training materials, because you have proper documentations of sessions that happened, not just about your best performers, but also maybe where there are skill gaps. So you can actually curate personalized training experiences using the data that you have from those sessions. I think another thing that we can maybe look into is how this can actually help with quality audits. Like you mentioned, right, there's a lot of like risk and on the one hand liability associated, but we're also dealing with the health and safety of the field technicians here. So are they actually executing their work in a compliant way? And can we actually then at scale map all of the sessions that are happening there? And I think even further, if you think about documenting knowledge, right, this is also something that during the conversation, if one of the experts wants to pull up a specific manual or a specific visual, an AI assistant can actually help to retrieve that data much quicker. And at a certain point, when there's a confidence level reached, there might even be a situation where some questions can even be answered directly without even the interference of a human service agent. So I think the future also of this solution with the new agentic AI capabilities is quite promising.
I do agree.
So thinking about, we've now focused on this solution within the charging station field, but it seems like this solution actually has applications in other industries as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is, I think, the beauty of the idea and the solution, because it helps wherever you have a complex product that is not easy to move, that is costly, and allows no downtimes. And let's make it practical. Let's go to other industries. For example, manufacturing. So manufacturing allows no downtimes at all, and you cannot move a machinery. That is the perfect sweet spot to come up with TP Reach. Aside, the aviation industry, so the line management is under immense pressure to solve technical issues with a high level or high degree of security needed. Let's bring in TP Reach. Or aside the medical space, where really precise repairs and precise troubleshooting is needed, this is also something where TP Reach fits well. And maybe you have some ideas.
Yeah, of course. No, so for, I think, these more highly complex machineries where I think downtime is also a very costly element, but also thinking maybe into more day-to-day machines. Think of your home appliances, for example. How many times did you maybe have your washing machine break down and had to wait for a technician to actually come by? How if the scalability of that can actually be improved with field services support with TP Reach? Or think about maybe within the energy sector, when we are dealing with wind turbines, for example, or even the connectivity devices that are within every neighborhood, making sure that we have Wi-Fi connection. I think even there, this solution can actually help scale the field technicians' services with expert advice reducing downtime.
Yeah, absolutely true. So it can be used across various industries, but also listening to your example. So the pattern is always the same, because it's products that are costly, not easy to move, complex to repair, allowing no downtime. So who wants to climb up a wind turbine 2 times to get it repaired? So that is where TP Reach can be a helper.
This is super, super interesting. So I think we've talked about a couple of things now, right? So on one hand, how do you actually focus more on the problem itself to actually ensure that you have an AI solution that can kind of move beyond just the AI pilot stage, and being closely connected to the people that actually are experts in that certain process and involve them into the solution design is super important to be able to scale. And I think the solution that we've talked about today, TP Reach, although it started off in the automotive industry, has a lot of potential to even kind of move beyond other industries. So very interesting. Because I think a lot of people in this room also might be dealing also with transformation cases themselves, right? If you had to give like one lesson that you would like to give this audience before they leave to enjoy other sessions today, what would that be?
So my belief is that AI alone is not changing the automotive environment, but humans do. So AI will do it faster, better, more intelligently, and of course, more human than ever before.